Some things you can't believe even after a lifetime as a police officer, until the man who has been dead for more than 20 days stands before you and asks, "Are my parents here?" Many years ago, I was serving as a patrol officer in a county-level police station. He was not yet promoted to his current position. A murder case occurred in their county. A young man discovered that his girlfriend was behaving promiscuously. She was having an affair with another man. B armed himself with a lethal weapon and followed the two. After a quarrel broke out, the other man had a bad temper. He struck first and tried to attack B. In a fit of rage, B took out his weapon and killed both victims on the street. The nature of the crime was extremely heinous. It was a daylight killing in public. B was quickly apprehended. The case was cleared and it was soon closed. In their locality, there was a custom. On the day of execution, the condemned would ride in a prison van through the county town for a circuit. Then they would return to the prison for the execution. During the ride, B appeared very calm. A police officer responsible for escorting him talked to him. He tried to console him with words like, "It is what it is. Live a better life in the next world." B remained silent. Just before returning to the prison, B suddenly made a move to get up. At the time, he was wearing handcuffs and leg irons. The officer immediately grew tense. Such a person no longer cared about life or death and was extremely prone to emotional outbursts. The officer asked him, "What's wrong?" B's tears immediately flowed. He said, "I saw her." The officer asked, "Whom did you see?" B never spoke another word. The execution then proceeded. The local regulations allowed only 3 bullets per convict. The bullets were aimed at the heart. With the first shot, B's tongue was blown away. After 3 shots, B was still not dead. Only 3 bullets were allocated. The executioners requested additional bullets and continued firing. In total, 7 shots were fired before B was killed. About 20-odd days later, more than 20 days after B's execution, I was eating when he suddenly received a call from the dispatch center. The center was relaying an incident. The dispatcher described it unclearly over the phone. I did not understand well, so he went directly to the scene. Upon arrival, he found an elderly couple. These 2 elderly people were the parents of the girl who had been killed on the street. They said that their daughter had been gone for barely half a year. They had been feeling very depressed. That night, while they were taking a second sleep, they heard someone pressing their doorbell repeatedly. The old father asked, "Who is it? Who is it?" No one answered from outside, but the doorbell kept ringing. Frightened, the old father looked through the peephole. He was terrified out of his wits. He saw B, who had been executed by 7 gunshots, standing at their doorstep. Half of B's head was missing. The old father hurriedly called the old mother. She also looked and saw the same sight. B, with half a head missing, was standing at the door. The 2 elders were extremely frightened and called the police immediately. But because it was the middle of the night, they dared not open the door until dawn. When daylight came, they finally dared to report the incident. After listening to the old people's account, Ted did not believe it at all. He thought that B had already been executed. B could not possibly be standing at their door. He concluded that the old couple, still grieving their daughter's recent death, were suffering from hallucinations. So he gave them a lecture. He said, "You must be mistaken. The man is dead. How could he come to knock on your door?" Then he left and did not take it seriously. The next day, however, received another alarm from the dispatch center. The alarm was again from the same elderly couple. He assumed it would be the same story. When he arrived, it was indeed so. The old couple said that the previous night they had again heard knocking on the door. When they looked through the peephole, there was B again. He was standing very close to their door. I became angry. He had been busy during the day and had not slept well the night before. He was particularly tired that day. He snapped at the old people, "If you keep making false reports like this, I will have to charge you with filing a false police report." This person's legal process has been completed. He no longer exists. How could he come to knock on your door? As soon as he finished, the old couple lost control completely and burst into tears. I vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he still thought it was impossible. Yet while talking with the old couple, he found that they were clear-headed and reacted normally. They did not seem like people with mental problems. After they finished crying, they said they were terrified and dared not stay at home. They begged to please take us back to the police station. We can stay with you. So I took them to the station and put them in the reception room. He told them, you are safe here. Don't worry. There's absolutely no problem. Then he went back to his dormitory on the second floor to rest. He slept for an unknown time. Then he heard someone knocking on his door in a daze. He got up and opened the door. He saw a young man he had never seen before. The young man looked normal. The young man said to him, officer, let me ask you, are there two elderly people, an old man and an old woman, staying here? His first reaction was that this must be the couple's son. In the old days, especially in small counties, an elderly couple usually had more than just a daughter. They would also have a son. So he said, yes, you are their child, right? I'll take you to them. He then stepped out of his dormitory and led the young man towards the reception room. As he walked, he talked to himself. He said to the young man, after something like this happens in your family, you need to comfort the old folks. Look, your parents' mental state is deteriorating. You can't just let them stop living because the person is gone. He went on mumbling as he walked. The young man followed behind, but because he had just woken up, his mind was still foggy. The farther he walked, the more his consciousness cleared, and the sharper his thinking became. Suddenly he realized something. He heard only his own footsteps in the corridor. The old police station building had a long hallway. He could only hear the sound of his leather shoes on the floor. Tap, 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 with no sound of a second person walking. He immediately understood. There was no one behind him. He spun around. The long corridor was completely empty. The young man had vanished. At that moment he felt afraid. He quickly rushed to the reception room and pushed open the door. The room was also empty. The old couple was gone. Frightened because he was on the second floor, he ran down to the first floor. On the first floor there was a duty room with an elderly janitor on duty. He asked the janitor, did anyone go upstairs just now? The janitor told him very definitely no one at all went upstairs. To go upstairs you have to pass by me. There is also a locked iron gate on the second floor. I have the key and have to unlock it for anyone to go up. I've been on duty the whole time and haven't slept. Absolutely no one went upstairs. I spent the night in the police station. The next morning after his shift ended, he went back to the old couple's home. He asked them, where did you go last night? I didn't find you in the reception room. The old couple answered, it was too cold in the reception room. We couldn't stand it, and we didn't dare go home. So we spent the night in a small inn nearby and came back in the daytime. Over the next few days I kept thinking about this matter. Eventually, through his connections from the police academy, he obtained all the case files from that incident. The files included a photograph of B. He looked at it. The young man who had knocked on his dormitory door and spoken to him that night was none other than B himself, because he had spoken face to face with that young man that night, and the face was identical.